Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 Quick Match gameplay. This time around we are on the Southern Chaos Wastes, playing as the forces of the Vampire Coast against High Elves. And I do think that this is one of the probably toughest matchups for the faction. Maybe not the toughest, but pretty darn close. Because the simple fact is, High Elves have a lot of dirt cheap shooting, archers especially, and some pretty decent holding options with good shields and some fairly effective light cav and flyers and all that sort of stuff. So High Elves are pretty well kitted out to win this match. So I decided to make a build that would hopefully counteract a lot of those strengths. For my lord, I decided to bring good old Count Noctilus up here mounted on his Necrofex Colossus. He does of course provide me with 2 summons, which I think is very important to control my opponent. This is before the recent patch, so summons are actually a little cheaper than they now are. So we've got, though actually, because I'm recording this after the patch, you can see that they're already labeled here as 7 Winds of Magic, which they did not at the time. Invocation of the Heck, or after the beta. Invocation of the Heck is in here. Melkos Miasma as well for more control options. Of course, Wraith Storm to try to bombard specific targets if I need to. Captain Earth's Moondial for those summons. And then Arcane Conduit to get more Winds of Magic. And of course, on the Necrofex Colossus, he's a decent counter to heavy cav with shooting. He can fight okay in melee. He's just a general champ. Now, alongside him, we do have a front line that's huge, or an infantry line really that's huge, that we've got a mix of zombie pirate deckhands with halberds, as well as zombie pirate deckhand mobs, vanilla variant. We also do have the Tide of Skjold here in the middle, basically a whole bunch of fodder, and it's something like 10 or so units, I think, that we've got to cover all our flanks, and that's pretty solid, and hopefully will prevent my opponent from getting into my backline too easily. Now, we don't actually have any light infantry skirmishers, but we do have 2 carronades here in the front. We've actually put some chevrons in them to improve their accuracy. Hopefully, these guys can counter enemy monsters and enemy cav and and heroes and that sort of stuff pretty effectively. Behind them, we do have 2 mortars, and you can see this is why I actually deployed on this side of the map, because this way my cannons are up on the high ground. They've got good arc, and the mortars are bit hulled down, so if my opponent had bolt throwers or something like that, he'd struggle to hit them. Queen Bess is also shielded as well because she is hull down here, and she is going to start pounding away at some of these squishy infantry pretty shortly. Otherwise, we do have 2 bloated corpses, basically as a bit of zoning tool/threat. If my opponent decides to say bust in with heavy cav, they'll be able to land some nasty meaty connections. Now for my opponent here, he did decide to go with Averlorn, so he is going super Vanguard heavy and just trying to YOLO me with a whole bunch of Dryads. So you can see the front line here, it is 6 units of Dryads immediately pushing forward. A Queen Bess, though, smashing this unit completely. They are backed by the Grey as well as 3 units of Shadow Warriors, who are going to start unloading on my troops almost immediately. Though, of course, these guys are pretty survivable, all things considered, just because they're so cheap, I guess, or it's cost ineffective at any rate. In the back, my opponent also does have 2 archers, as well as Alariel the Radiant up here with Tempest, Earthblood, Frost Protection, and some other things. She's got the Stave of Averlorn, the Star of Averlorn. Stave of Averlorn no longer reduces Winds of Magic costs, so don't use it in my opinion. She does have Shieldstone of Isha, Boon of Isha, Shield of Safri, and Life Bloom. Finally, the Fireborn are back here, staying safe for the moment because they don't want to get artillery to death. Now, as the fight starts breaking down in the front line here, you can see me pulling my carronades back. This is to prevent my opponent from shooting them down to death, because, of course, I don't want to lose my artillery. Though my opponent is trying to focus on the Queen Bess, so I do hit her with an Invocation of the Heck there. Start dropping some summons here. You can see the Zombie Pirate Deckhand Mob zoning my opponent away. And now Count Nocti is pushing forward, and this is incredibly risky for him. He's very susceptible to shooting, so if my opponent would stand his ground right here, if he just ordered his Grey to tie these guys down, or order Shadow Warriors to tie them down, he could then unload on Noctilus and probably pressure me pretty heavily. But as we do force a breach here, you can see the Tide of Skjold pushing through. Over here, I'm pulling the bloated corpse wide so that it doesn't get caught by this blob of infantry. We don't want it prematurely detonating. And meantime, the carronades are getting back online. The mortar's still pounding away the squishy infantry. And, you know, they get up to 15 kills, which against High Elves, not bad at this stage. We do get some chaff over here. You can see the summoned zombie pirate deckhands tying these guys down. And now the bloated corpse is trying to come in for a bit of a suicide run. But unfortunately, my opponent focusing it very heavily here. He's actually going to pull Alariel clear, and she is going to tank the hit, taking one for the team there, and the bloated corpse is basically nothing. So taking over an overarching look at the battlefield, this has been an incredibly hectic fight. Things have degenerated in seconds. You can see over here, zombie pirate deckhands trying to overwhelm these routed Dryads. And basically, in this entire angle, my opponent has lost the front line. His Dryads are barely bleeding over there. They've been routed off over there, and his core of shooting that he really needed to be pressuring my backline has been forced off, and that is pretty important for me. That said, he is winning over here. The Dryads will win in this protracted engagement, and the Mortars, although they are doing some work, aren't doing it quickly. So it's a bit of a grind fest. That said, we are applying some serious pressure. My opponent here does try to shoot at Count Noctilus. We did get a bit of a heal, though, and Count Nocti is running away. Invocation of the Hag now does heal less than, or is now healing less than it did in this replay, but still, it will still be healing for a good amount. You can see we're just pounding away at these guys. The Mortars doing some serious work. If we look at the kill counts, these guys up to 23 kills. These Mortars over here up to 20, so that's not bad. We're going to lose Queen Bess here, but she's already emptied most of her ammo, and she's down to... She's got 36 kills, so definitely not bad. Queen Bess is very susceptible to shooting, so that is something to be aware of, but unfortunately there's not much you can do about it. Now Lariel is trapped here fighting the Carronades, and you can see my opponent here does come in with the Horde of Fireborn. We do get a bombardment on them, we do get a Melkos Miasma on them, but they are getting on top of my mortars and trying to mess them up, so we're going to get a summon there. Zombie Pirate Deckhands are going to try to bog these guys down and prevent them from compromising me too badly. The Queen Bess crew will also be pulled because now without a gun, they've served no purpose in life besides bogging down Fireborn. And so that's what we're going to pull them. And meantime, the Carronades are going to be able to just pound away at them and slowly but surely whittle them down. As you can see, the balance of power is now shifting decisively in my favor. You can see the horde of zombies is kind of swarming the backline. Now, certainly my opponent still has some troops left. The Grey has actually almost expended all of their ammo, firing away at the mortars over here. But the simple fact of the matter at this point of the game is that my opponent's shooting is too far away. He's not able to maintain that pressure, and he's basically out of troops. He's got a handful of Dryads on the periphery here. He's got the Fireborn, who are slowly but surely getting whittled down by Count Noctilus. We are actually pulling our Carronade clear. I'm not entirely sure what this cast here was, trying to heal these guys perhaps, but it misses them, so the Fireborn are not getting heals. And the Fireborn are getting melted. They're just struggling here. They're bogged down in the pit. The Queen Bess crew is in there. They've got ridiculous amounts of HP, so they're actually pretty hard to destroy. Sure, we're losing a unit of mortars over here. It's getting whittled down, but the Carronades are also online. They're going to be able to start pounding away at the Fireborn. Alariel is over here wasting her time fighting Zombie Pirate Deckhands. Over here, these Dryads bog down pole arms. And although my opponent is being able to overwhelm the Tide of Skuld, for example, and winning some of these peripheral fights, certainly taking units offline, the simple fact of the matter is our core is still very much alive and very much around kicking. Count Noctilus still on 6,000 HP, certainly not the best melee combatant out there, but it just doesn't matter. He's just doing so much damage to these Fireborn. They actually get terror-routed there down to 1,100 HP. The Carronades now are going to be able to get more shots in there, and the Carronades are doing some serious work, and every model we can take down is a win for us. Certainly there's heals going down, but the cannons are killing models, and that's what really matters. Models don't come back. You've got no invocation in the heck as High Elves, so you're not getting these guys back. On the periphery, the Grey finally out of ammo. We do get a nice little bombardment here against the Dryads before our pole arms completely break. Alariel's still bogged down over here, you can see, and the Fireborn routing. They're down to just 12 or 11 models. They're completely crippled, and it's a grim situation for the High Elves. We're able to keep that pressure going. Certainly a lot of our units are crumbling, but at this stage, with ammo basically expended, sure, these archers, they're going to be able to outrun my guys. They're going to be able to rally somewhere, but there's just not enough ammo left to win the game. There's not enough troops left to win the game at this point, and it's basically just a slow grind fest. I don't know why these Fireborn were fleeing this way. They are down to 3 models at this point. You can see we're going to try to focus on Alariel a little bit. She does take off, trying to get at my artillery pieces. We actually hit that Carronade with an invocation of the heck. But although she does come in to help, she even heals herself with a Star of Avalorn. It is just too little too late. She's in a bad spot. The Carronades are going to start pivoting to teach her a lesson. Nocti is going to be able to turn around. And although she's taking some of these Carronades offline, she's just not really going to be able to survive here. At this point, it's going to be GG for the Vampire Coast. So well played to my opponent, Black Phillip here. Certainly this was just pre-patch or pre-beta, so not necessarily everything here would work the same now. Though to be honest, most of it would. I think the only real change was the increased cost of some spells, which might have made a tiny difference, but I don't think it would have made much, if any, in the grand scheme of things. The test with the bloated corpses didn't really work. I wanted to try them out, but Lariel was like great at just catching the one unit, and the other one I think detonated prematurely on some Dryads, so they really didn't deliver, but I wanted to try them out, wanted to give them a shot. This is a pretty difficult matchup with the High Elves. Now, I actually don't think my opponent's build here was good or correct for the matchup. I think what you want to do if you're fighting against the Vampire Coast is go super wide with lots of cheap chaff. Dryads can be okay, but I'd honestly suggest shield spearmen instead for the shields. And then a horde of archers. Shadow warriors cost way too much in this situation to really be worth it. You're paying almost double what you would pay for archers. So for this army here, he could have had, like, this is 2,500. He could have easily had, like, 7 or 8 archers on the field for the cost of this shooting battery of Shadow Warriors. And while that might not seem like that much of a difference, it's a huge difference. It's a lot for your units that I have to shut down. And the damage output is pretty comparable. If you have a decent holding line with spearmen, which are cheaper, it's then much easier to hold against units like trash. And then I think light cav or nobles are probably a better investment than fireborn in this situation. But that is my 2 cents on the matter. Well played to Black Phillip. Definitely was a pretty fun match. I do think this is an okay build against High Elves. Might not be the best, and there's still a lot to work on, but I think this is decent if you guys are struggling with the matchup like I was. If you have any comments, any criticism, any questions, as usual, don't hesitate to post them. I will do my best to respond as soon as I can. I do thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Wyvern out.